Hello, hello.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, we are back. And the hell must have frozen over because I don't have wine or tea today. I'm going sans drink. So, yeah, I don't know what that means. But yeah, there we go. So, hello, Chris and Ellie here again. So, today is the 25th of March. So, we are on officially day 5 of lockdown. So time to sort of give a little update. Been a bit of a weird one for me today. As I sort of predicted yesterday, I overdid it yesterday and was in quite a lot of pain today. So wasn't able to be productive, but I think that sort of meant that I fell into the sort of feeling quite low and a bit sort of just a bit down today. So it was quite hard to sort of do stuff, be productive, feel like I was sort of getting anything of value done. So I just felt quite restless. And in truth, I kind of quite a lot of today wanted to just go to bed and just stay there, which isn't an entirely healthy coping mechanism. But it's also very easy to do so when you don't have anywhere to be and don't have anything to do. So that's something that I will keep an eye on so that I don't just hibernate and come see you in a few months, see you when all of this is blown over. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough one on that front today, but yeah, there we go. They're going to be ups and downs, and I kind of think the point of this is to sort of share them with you. So I'll get into a little bit more of that sort of stuff in a bit, probably. How are you doing today there, Chris?
I'm all right. Yeah, I haven't been as productive as I was yesterday either. I've got a bit of a loose ends. I had a call today from my work. I think I explained before I work in an opticians. They're staying open, but they are going to be putting a lot of staff into furlough as per the government scheme, which is great. So they don't have they don't have many. They only have emergencies coming in at the moment, and they don't need many staff. And obviously,
it's normally quite a big branch, isn't it?
Yeah, so, but they want to reduce the number of people who are coming in, interacting, and commuting and just being around each other in close proximity, which is very sensible. So I'll find out by the end of the week whether they're putting me in furlough or whether they want me to come in next week and resume working. So we'll see with that. But either way, it's good that they are doing everything they can to kind of minimise contact and kind of look after the staff as well. So
sounds like they're being quite sensible and they're thinking it through and sort of well, you said to me earlier that they kind of asked you what your preference would be, because some people might be living alone and actually don't really want to be sort of entirely isolated. Other people might live with higher risk people and things like that. So sort of asking people's preferences. So fingers crossed, because mainly because of the commute. I think it would be good if you are at least in the first wave of furlough people, and then you can be called in for cover if it's needed down the line. Just because, I think travelling on public transport is obviously it's a bit of a bottleneck for where people sort of interact, but also it's going to be on a reduced service, and it might just be quite difficult for you to get to and from work. Whilst social distancing and just literally in the sort of logistics of it, you might struggle for an early start, although they are doing reduced hours, aren't they? So that's something there.
Other news for me. Yeah. Ellie found some batteries.
Yes, which is good. I did. Did we mention that we didn't have any batteries?
No, well, I was talking a couple of days ago about how I dug out the Nintendo Wii.
Yes.
And which was great, but I had forgotten just how quickly those controllers chew through batteries, and I was just using some kind of cheap leftover batteries as well, not a very good brand. So,
and I was quite annoyed with myself because when you said that, I was like, we've got loads of batteries in work because we run a lot of high power gadgets and gizmos, cameras, torches, that kind of thing. So we plough through a lot of batteries, so I buy them in bulk, but I left them in work because obviously I normally need them at work. But yeah, the other day David sort of was passing through. David's one of my other brother, I mentioned Alan. David was popping through and I was like, oh well, bring back the hand sanitizer and the spray disinfectant because we'll be needing that, and I left some there. But yeah, lots of other things I was like, that'll be handy now, and I forgot about that, and that'll be useful.
Back when I was using my Nintendo Wii more regularly, back when it was a current console, I had a charging station and some rechargeable batteries, and I don't know.
Also had some rechargeables in work as well.
Don't know what's become of them over the years. So yeah, I went from being very excited to having the Nintendo all set up, and I was playing a game, Pandora's Tower. I was very keen, and then that all kind of fell to the wayside very quickly. But now we've found 4 batteries.
4, so that'll last a day or 2.
If we're lucky. So
but
that's
we
good.
are going to try and be a bit more tactical with our shopping trips. So rather than popping out to the local shop every time we need something, we're kind of compiling a list so that we can wait till we absolutely have to go because we need something right there and then, but have a little backup list of all the other things to look to see if they've got at the same time so that we can minimise our trips out.
Yeah, so
which I hope everybody is doing as well, but we'll see on that one.
I went to the shop on Monday on my way home from my last day of work, and it's only, what is it, Wednesday now?
Yes.
Yes, so it's not been long, admittedly, but neither of us has been to the shop since then. We don't plan on going tomorrow unless any sort of disaster strikes. We're trying to make do with what we've got in the house.
I am actually going to have to go out at some point, probably in the next 7 to 10 days, because I'm going to have to go via the pharmacy just for to put in for my renewal of my prescription for my regular meds.
Sure, and at some point we will have to go to the shop and get some food and bits, but I'm just saying, like,
I've got more to, like, I'm doing that more preemptively than I normally would, but I just feel like they're under so much pressure that if I put it in as early as possible, then they've got time to sort it out. So at that point, we'll try and combine trips so that we're doing all of our little things all in one go, rather than nipping out, because I guess you just reduce your crossover with people that way. So that's a good way to do it. So actually be organised and sort of write an ongoing shopping list so that you don't sort of have to keep popping out for things. And yeah, so one of the things you sort of noticed was how often we do just pop out for bits that perhaps we don't necessarily need, because actually we've almost always got quite a well-stocked food cupboard, but tend to buy new fresh things to cook there and then. But actually it's quite good because it's making us cook a little bit more inventively and try and use up stuff that we've got.
Also, just sometimes you just find yourself at a loose end in the house. Maybe you've been working all day, getting some admin done, and you've just gone a bit stir crazy in the house, and it's very easy just to go, I'll just pop the shops and buy a bag of crisps or a chocolate bar, just an excuse to get out. And also, I think I've got just quite into the habit of just spending a bit of money every day as a little endorphin.
Well, it's easy also as well if you're out anyway to just like, I have something nice, I'll just pop in.
Yeah, I think there's a little endorphin thing associated with, I've just bought myself something I fancy. But a lot of the time you don't need that thing, and so I'm wondering if maybe being in isolation, not being able to go to the shops, is going to break that cycle and break that habit for me a bit, and then maybe afterwards I'll be a bit less likely to kind of dash out and just spend a lot of money. Well,
hopefully, I think that there's lots of little things that making just everybody a little bit more mindful of the little actions that they take daily that might actually sort of add up. Because obviously everyone's having to be a little bit more mindful of their spending. Some people more than others, but yeah, everybody I think is aware that money's going to be tight because just the economy's kind of grinding to a bit of a halt.
My friend Sarah was talking on Facebook today about how she was enjoying listening to the bird song, being outside, none of the traffic, and it would be nice if there could be some sort of regular weekly or monthly day where it just all goes a bit quiet and shop shut down and just...
I guess going back to the old Sundays of actually having quiet Sundays maybe, or whatever. But I
don't know if I advocate that, because I know what it was like when I was working 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, and just if you didn't
I'm not. Saturday, I'm just saying like that would be the equivalent of if we're maybe talking about a weekly. It would go back to feeling a bit like how it used to be, because I remember everything being shut on Sundays. Yeah, so I am old enough to remember that, but ancient woman I am. You're older than me.
Yeah.
A grand 9 months older than me, but older than me nonetheless. Old man.
I had a sort of might be a bit, because also the other thing we've heard about, I think we talked about before, is the number of animals and the amount of wildlife that's returning to the streets and things and places, because there's not so many people around all the time. Also, it's been, as bad as it's been in a lot of ways, there's been a lot less air pollution and everything else.
Yeah, they did an overhead sort of satellite view of China, where obviously this all sort of begun. And just because they'd shut all the factories, they literally went like full lockdown, whereas here things are still sort of pootling along, but they've just stripped things back. In China, they did literally just go, everything's shut, you can only leave the house for healthcare, etc. And the air pollution just dropped to almost nothing. And so there's some really nice stories of Chinese students sort of saying suddenly they can really enjoy a sunset and it looks beautiful because they just don't have the smog, which that's a nice weird side effect to all this insanity. And maybe it's just giving a little bit of breathing space to the natural side of things, which could hopefully be a helpful reminder of our impact on the world, and maybe when we all strip things back a little bit, that it just gives a little bit of breathing space. So that's a weird positive, but I guess find them where you can find them.
Yeah. I had a slightly fanciful suggestion, and I realise there's a lot of practicalities that I probably haven't thought of, and I don't know how on earth we'd implement this. But I thought it'd be quite nice if after all this is over, and life is going back to normal, maybe we could almost instigate like a sort of annual international holiday. I mean, again, it's above my pay grade, but I just think it'd be a nice idea if they did something kind of go once a year for kind of 2 weeks. We strip things back. We don't go to the pub. We don't go to the shops. We stay home as much as we can, and
maybe enjoy some quality time with your loved ones, and
give the planet a bit of a rest. Obviously, we'd all have a bit more time to prepare and make sure we were stocked up at home, and we wouldn't have to panic buy. And
to sort of because you'd be able to plan for it, which would be handy because we haven't really been able to do that this time. But but also maybe mark it as a thing to kind of remember as well, like, because obviously we'll be looking at quite a different world then, in many ways, I suspect. So it might be nice if there's some. I think it might be ambitious to expect 2 weeks because
I'm sure there's all sorts of economical reasons.
Even if it was just even if it was just a weekend that everybody just goes, no, it's a stay-home weekend. Just because I think there are nice things being learned here, and it would be a shame to lose them and fully go back. Like, I don't know if we're going to go back to normal. I think I don't know. Obviously, nobody knows at this stage, but it feels quite big, and it feels like sort of it's changed. The game's changed, doesn't it? I think in terms of what governments can do if they have to, help that can be provided. It kind of proves that they could have always been doing more to help people, which now they kind of have to. And I imagine that's not just here. Obviously, I'm being quite critical of the British government here, but like across the world, whatever your political leaning, I think governments have had to sort of step in and do more than they had been, and kind of it sort of made you realise that there's more going on that can be maybe kept when all of this is over. I'll have to apologise now. I realise I seem quite maudlin. As I say, it's a bit of, I'm a little bit down today. I'm also, and this is a fun one, I'm feeling a little bit rough. I've got a bit of a sore throat and I'm coughing a little bit. I am hoping that is just I'm a bit run down and feeling a bit low, but and obviously it could just be a cold if it is something, but that's obviously when all of this sort of stuff's going on, that like the slightest little tickle in the throat and you're just like, oh god, right, here it is, it begins. So fingers crossed, that is not anything to worry about, but I guess there's a lot of things to sort of buzz around in the background, in the back of your subconscious when you're feeling a bit rough. So but that's only like started this evening. I've got a bit of a sore throat, and
you've got the morbs, haven't you?
I've got the morbs. I love this. Somebody shared on Facebook, there's a Victorian phrase that I think needs to come back into use, but it was
we're getting very into Victorian slang because we're trying to appeal to the youth.
But yes, the phrase meaning a sudden state of unexplained melancholia was got the morbs. Which today I've got the morbs. I sort of woke up with the morbs for no real particular like trigger. It was just today I woke up. I think it was literally from the moment I sort of stretched and went ow, and then I was like, oh yeah, okay. Today's going to be painful and tiring, and so but then I tried to do all the right things. So like again, I came downstairs, went straight out into the garden because it was a lovely sunny day. Whereas yesterday I had no dead animals today. That was an improvement. But whereas yesterday I was sort of sitting there in the sunshine being like, oh, okay, just like enjoy the little things, this is nice. Today it was just sort of like I sort of feel like I should be doing something a bit more useful than this, and maybe just not really enjoying it. Today I felt a little useless, a little helpless. So there's a few reasons for that. I'll start with something that's sort of, in the grand scheme of things, not huge, but just in terms of my own sort of mental health. One of my good friends is currently out in Thailand, and she wasn't due to fly back until the 30th, but as I said, I think yesterday, the Foreign Office has said everybody who is abroad needs to make their own arrangements to come home. I've seen some emergency flights have been put on. She's out in the middle of nowhere and going to struggle to get back, which is a bit of a worry, and sort of knowing that somebody that you care about is somewhere very far away and kind of stuck, and you can't really do anything to help. That sort of makes you feel a bit useless, and nobody likes that. I like to feel useful, but again, like things could be, she will get home. It's just she might have a bit of a manic time between now and then, and at least she did get to go to Thailand, which all her pictures look beautiful. She said there's hardly any tourists, so she's getting prime spots on the beach, but yeah, all of the bars and restaurants and hotels and everything has shut. So basically, if you're already in a hotel, they are looking after you, but they're not taking in new guests, which is part of the reason why she's a bit stuck, because if she goes back to Bangkok where she can fly from, there might not be anywhere to stay, and there's no guarantee that there'll be flights. But if she waits, there definitely won't be flights, because I think they've said on the 28th is when they're stopping international flights, but I'm not sure on that. I will double check. But basically, it was before she was due to come back anyway, so she needs to cut her trip short for sure. It's just whether or not she's going to be able to do that easily, and without huge cost, because obviously that's buying surprise plane tickets, but hopefully there's provisions for that. I saw that British Airways I don't know where they were, I just caught the tail end of the story on the news, but somewhere they were flying people back for £250 per person, but if the person didn't have the money, they basically could write an IOU to British Airways, and the British government was footing the bill for that. I assume they were probably somewhere particularly high risk, so they needed to get them home, but I didn't quite catch, I'm afraid. I caught the tail end of that story. But so this thing, I don't think anyone's going to be just entirely left to their own devices, but it's just a bit of a worry. And yeah, so a couple of dark things to go on to before we hopefully lighten it up a bit. So if anyone is finding it all a bit overwhelming and trying to avoid the dark stuff, if you're already doing all that you can and you don't want to sort of hear the really grim statistics, then maybe skip ahead a few minutes. I'll give you a wave when I finish talking about grim stuff, so that you can jump back in.
As long as you're following all the advice and you're isolating everything else, and there's there's no more you can do, then it's perfectly reasonable to think, I don't want to hear about all the negative stuff and the stuff going on right now that's a bit bleak. So that's absolutely valid, as long as you're following all the advice. And I'm very aware of this, because a couple of days ago I passed on some information to some people who just didn't welcome it at all.
And fair enough.
And I felt a bit bad for doing it. So just absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're following all the advice and you don't want to hear grim stuff,
skip ahead now, and I will give you a wave when we're done talking about the dark bits, hopefully. So yeah, hopefully you have now skipped. So the first, there were a couple of things, both pretty grim. When the Prime Minister sort of announced that we were going into a full lockdown, he mentioned that he thought that we were at best 2 to 3 weeks ahead of Italy. Italy is currently, it's actually, I think, overtaken China, but it's the sort of the worst hit place in the world, and Spain is shortly behind it, I believe. So now actually the sort of epicenter of the pandemic is in Europe rather than China. In China it has slowed right down, although they do still have cases. It seems to be that they've gotten ahead of it and they've flattened that curve significantly. However, we're still having some pretty terrifying statistics over here, and because of the way these viruses spread, it's kind of exponential growth. So I think they're looking at, obviously it's all statistics and you can't guarantee, but they're looking at basically the numbers doubling every 3 days. So we are in double figures of deaths, but today I checked the numbers that were released at around lunchtime today. Spain had 738 deaths in the last 24 hours, and Italy 653 in a day. And if you're looking at numbers doubling every 3 days, you're having those sorts of figures over and over and over again. And it's only sort of 2 weeks ago that they were having like less than 10. And obviously any death is not good, but when they're exponentially growing like that, that also signifies how much additional strain is going on to the health care providers that are just overwhelmed. On that note, we've mentioned that Newport/Gwent, which is the area we live in, seems to be, in the UK at least, the hardest hit in terms of infections per 100,000 residents, second to London. One of the senior doctors in the Aneurin Bevan Health Board has put out a special announcement today, basically saying we are looking at, it's not going to be long before we're kind of looking at Italy type numbers in terms of how we are very close to being overwhelmed. Please follow the advice, because basically I took that to be they're already very strained and spread very thin, and we know it's going to get worse. So that's quite scary if they're already sort of saying we can't really handle much more, because there's nothing we can do to stop it now. It's already out there, and because of the incubation period, people already have it who don't know it yet, and there's going to be a lot of them. So that's grim, and it may be why I'm feeling pretty glum. Another really grim thing before I give you the wave and call you back is that today, or within the last 24 hours, I believe, a otherwise perfectly healthy, as far as everybody knew, she was in perfect health, young woman of 21 years old has joined the deaths from COVID-19 in the UK. So that really hammers home that although it's usually the vast majority of people who do succumb to it are much older or have underlying health problems, this will affect young, fit, healthy people as well, and that's quite scary and also very, very sad. I think the youngest person in the UK to have died with it so far was an 18-year-old man, which I have to say, that's an 18-year-old boy, isn't it? That's really sad, but he did have some underlying health problems. I'm not sure quite what they were, but this most recent case, she was 21 and otherwise fit and healthy, so this will not discriminate, and everybody needs to remember that there's still people outside messing around, not taking it seriously, and we will look back on those people not fondly, because people are going to lose people that they care about, and that's a tragedy anyway, but it's all the worse for if it could have been prevented or slowed, and people are just being idiots about it, because also you're not going to necessarily know that you were the person who passed that on to that person, but so that's pretty grim. Is there anything else pretty grim to say before I give a wave?
No, I think
I've got a positive thing to move on to.
All
so
right.
that's
Cool.
Right, okay, I've waved. So hopefully anybody who has left us can come back. Hello, please come back.
I don't know how easy it is to kind of search through and see that wave on Facebook.
I don't know.
We're doing the best we can.
We're doing the best we can. We don't know. 23 minutes 52. There we go. I can put a little trigger warning in the thing.
Okay.
There we go. 23:52. I'm going to write that down.
Excuse me, keep burping.
23:52. So I've written that down. I've organised. So the nice thing, which is something that I think is sort of kind of a bit spiriting about all of this. Yesterday, the Prime Minister announced that they were asking people who were fit and healthy, who maybe aren't working because their businesses have closed down, but they are otherwise well and able. They were looking for a drive of up to 250,000 people to become sort of NHS support volunteers, doing a few different jobs. One would be driving medicines and things like that around for pharmacies, picking up people who've been discharged from hospital and driving them around, but also people who are self-isolating and aren't able to get out and about can actually be sort of telephone support liaison, so calling people who are self-isolating, checking how they're doing, getting help for them if they need it, etc. So there's lots of things like that. They were asking for 250,000 people, and within 24 hours 405,000 people applied to be included. So that is very it's sort of heartening. It's quite nice. There's a little bit of me that's just like, we should be paying people who are supporting the NHS, but if obviously, I guess if you're volunteers, you can do as much or as little as you are able. But the fact that there's that many people out there going, I want to do something to help, just throw me in there, let me do what I can, I think that's lovely. And we're seeing a lot of acts of kindness, generosity. It is, for the most part, I think, bringing out the absolute best in people, of those people who are taking it seriously. There are still a few knobs. But...
Yeah. So well done to those people volunteering. Obviously, though, it's great that they're volunteering, but, we've all got a lot of stuff going on right now. If you can't volunteer, if you've got other commitments, if you're anxious about going out right now, which is understandable, don't feel bad if you're not volunteering.
Well,
or
we haven't.
Feel pressured to volunteer.
No, but it's
just by staying home, you're also doing your bit.
Yeah.
And as long as you're following all the guidelines.
Yeah, that's, to be honest,
done.
that is it. Like, somebody sort of quite nicely pointed out that, like, back in sort of World War II times, to do your bit, we were sending people out to fight on the front lines, to get in the trenches and do all sorts of nonsense like that. Now, to do your bit for your country, you have to just sit on your sofa and watch some TV.
And there are things,
do it. It's not like
it's not that hard, is it?
It's not the most stimulating thing in the world, but
I keep saying it, but there's never been a better time to be stuck in your own home. Throughout the course of human history, now is the time. We've
got streaming services, we've got the internet, we can FaceTime with the people we love.
Disney Plus has just launched. You can literally sign up for a free week. If you're bored at home, sign up for a week, rinse it, and unsubscribe if you don't like it.
That's pretty. Yeah,
why not?
So there's loads of stuff that you can do.
Also, there's ways you can help out from your home. You can support an artist that you like, buy an album, buy a T-shirt. Buy a ticket for something that's happening in the future, or support a virtual gig or some sort of thing that they're doing, or just a lot of people are just setting up things you can donate to.
Donations. So obviously, like, if you can donate to sort of local charities or to causes that you want to support, or literally people's small businesses. There are people who sort of make their own they may have online shops, that will be helping them pay the bills. Also, of course, if you don't have a lot of money at the moment, there are other things that you can do to help people. I, for one, for example, if people if they want to support us financially, they can still buy gift vouchers, which would get games at escape rooms when we can reopen at some point. But also, even just if you've visited, giving a review and sharing the page and just letting people know, lots of just sort of supporting small businesses and reminding each other, like sharing each other's content, just sharing.
There's a lot of people making videos and sketches and putting out songs and things online, and even if it's as little as like I know if people to like not to be self-indulgent, but if people wanted to like my Facebook page, like or comment on or share a video that I'd made and put out, I know that'd give me a bit of a lift, cheer me up. And there's a lot of but it's not just about me, but that's an example. There's a lot of comedians and artists and things that have got content. If you just wanted to like, subscribe, share, enjoy, comment, I'm sure that would cheer people up right now, and that's just a little morale boost is useful if you haven't got a lot of money to sort of pay for things. That would be great. There were a couple of specific things I wanted to plug, which is there's a Just Giving page or campaign or something, I don't know what they call it, for comedians. I think it's called Heckle the Virus.
Heckle the Virus,
Virus. I should have more details to hand, but I'm sure if you go to Just Giving, I'm sure you can type in a search Heckle the Virus.
To be honest, I think if you just write #Heckle the Virus, it will come up.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Find that. That is for self-employed comedians who lost a lot of money from gigs being cancelled. I've lost money from gigs being cancelled, but this campaign is not to support me because I've got a second job and I'm going to be all right. But there's a lot of people where their entire income is comedy and all their bookings have been wiped out, all their income is suddenly gone, and people are trying to raise money to try and help people in that situation. So anything you could give to that would be great. Another thing I wanted to plug was I mentioned yesterday, tomorrow night we're going to be watching a virtual gig. It's going to be the world premiere of Frank Foucault's show Shoes. So it's going to be streamed. So they record. It's not going to be live. They recorded it a while ago, but it's been edited. It's going to have an audience, an atmosphere, all the things you'd expect from a comedy gig. And like I said, it was recorded like last year sometime. So it's got no jokes about the current situation. So you can have a bit of escapism, not have to think about that. But there will be an introduction recorded live from Tony. He's the regular MC. He's going to be introducing it, and then they'll stream the show. It's never been seen anywhere before, and it just helps support Frank Foucault. He's the comedian, and it helps support the comedy club, help them keep going. But also, it's just a good laugh going to see some great live comedy. And we mentioned we were going to do that yesterday, but I don't think I mentioned how you can actually find that. You can buy a ticket. There's a Facebook event for it. The comedy club is called How Lazy Is He? So search for that on Facebook. They've got a page you can like. That's where they're going to be streaming it. But you can also buy a virtual ticket, so you're supporting them and helping them at this time.
Beautiful. Right, well, we have gone over our half an hour.
Have we?
So I think we'll probably end it there. So today was maybe a little bit maudlin. But hopefully we've got it out of the way now, and tomorrow I will be feeling all perky again, and we can go back to making knob jokes and talking about unnecessary hand jobs. So
Hi, Nana.
yeah, he shared this with his nan today, and I was just like, I feel like I should have put a content warning for, like, because I'm sure my mum's probably watching this, and I want to put in, like, sorry mum, I am swearing a bit.
That's because my Nana's kind of obviously self-isolating at the moment. She's on her own. She's a bit lonely. I'm sure a lot of people's nanas are.
I'm all for you sharing it with her, but just, I apologies, Shirley. I'm very sorry.
Sorry, I didn't bring up hand jobs this time, so that's this one.
He started it. Right. So I think that's probably us done for tonight. I am quite looking forward to my bed this evening. So yeah, I think it's off to bed for me, and hopefully tomorrow I will wake up whistling and singing and without a sore throat. But come hell or high water, tomorrow night I'm going to be watching that comedy gig. You should do the same, or get involved in anything else that's going on. Just get on Facebook, talk to each other, look after each other, and we will try and come back a bit perkier and hopefully happier and with fewer grim statistics tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.